It is afternoon. Obviously, we just had Valentine's Day, and I was tempted to do kind of more of a Valentine's lesson this morning, but I wanted to continue on through the Gospels, and I just thought that kind of be fun to do something. I'm hoping there's interaction, and if I tell you there is no interaction, it'll be fast. I don't want to say that because then there won't be any interaction, so we're going home in 10 minutes. But the objective here this afternoon is kind of allow some feedback. In fact, we're going to have a few scenarios. Now, the caution, I'm not into what we call that situational ethics. I don't want to get into that kind of a way of thinking. But I have some scenarios that I kind of want to, that I've made up. So they're not from online, they're just something I've made up. So you'll probably find lots of faults with it. But some things that I brought up for the purpose of showing or reminding us, interacting with each other, what true biblical love is all about. And certainly, well, we'll start off with in John chapter 13. I guess I'll start with that. John chapter 13 reminds us of the significance, the distinguishing aspect of our love, or I should say Christ's love, that we are to emulate in our lives, is going to be something that is going to be noticed by others. If we can live it out, it will be noticed. And to be able to remind ourselves that this kind of Christ-like love is something that ought to be noticed in our hearts and our lives, but also remind us that our adversary, the devil, is trying to do everything he can to destroy that kind of love. John chapter 13, we know this, these verses here. But in verse 34, Christ says, "A new commandment I give unto you, that you love one another," which is not a new commandment necessarily. Certainly in the Old Testament, they were commanded to love their Lord, their God, with all their heart, soul, and mind. And certainly the commandments as a whole were many times directed so that they would understand their obligation and responsibility to others. But here he says, "The new commandment I give unto you, that you love one another," and he sets the bar here, which is new because this bar has not been set to this point. "As I have loved you." We are commanded to love as Christ has loved us. Not have that as our goal, not have that as our objective, but we're commanded to love as he loved us. "That ye also love one another. By this shall all men know that you are my disciples, if ye have love one to another." Now I know that, what's the statement? Is it imitation? Is the best form of flattery? Whatever the actual, whatever it is, you know what I'm talking about. I know that there are many who try to imitate lots of high school time frame. Obviously, during the days of Michael Jordan, you can always tell the guys that really like Michael Jordan by the moves that they tried. Couldn't quite do it the way Michael Jordan did, but the way that they tried to do the way he did, or the way they had their tongue when they would go up for a layup, or even the shoes that they wore. It was all about Michael Jordan. And probably every for baseball, my brothers and I would often play. If we play these baseball games, I'd just go indefinitely. So we'd wind up with scores like 107 to 152 because they'll just go all summer long. We just keep adding to the score. And I would often remind, this is when I was younger, but remind my brothers that I was Ryan Sandberg. Played second base on Ryan Sandberg. And I didn't have a gold glove. I couldn't do anything that Ryan Sandberg could do, but we always had, growing up, you always had those people that you kind of wanted to be like. As we get older, I think it still continues on. We've been to some churches where, I kid you not, that the men in the church seem to look exactly like the pastor. Exact same haircut style, the same way. And in that particular church I'm thinking of, I think they must have all used like a gallon of goo of some sort, because it was just on the side of their head, and that's what every guy looked like. And striped ties. I think he was a graduate of Bob Jones, so all they had were striped ties and a gobble goo in their hair, and it was all part of the exact same way, and they're identical. And almost to the point that if you saw them out about the community, you could say, "I know what church they go to." Certainly, there are a number of pastors that you can tell which school they graduated from by their mannerisms behind the pulpit. And we all kind of have, to a way, we kind of emulate, we kind of imitate those maybe that we respect, maybe we don't respect, but we find ourselves imitating them, or we don't even attempt to imitate them. And we probably all would have evidences of that. But these verses make it very clear that there's something about Christ that he commands us to emulate. Now, there's so many aspects of Christ, his holiness, his goodness, his mercy, his forgiveness, so many areas of who he is that we are also commanded to do as he did. We are to forgive as he has forgiven. But yet these verses declare, as Christ says, here's your defining, here's your determining characteristic that if you do it this way, if you do it the way I've done it, there will be without question, people will know who you follow. And it wasn't about his holiness, it wasn't about his haircut, it wasn't about his mannerisms, it wasn't about this or that, it was about his love. And so to be reminded in that regard, while I'm not necessarily a across-the-board supporter of all the history and the background of Valentine's Day, and certainly not necessarily a big supporter of all the commercialization that we have of Valentine's Day, the Word of God makes it very clear that if the body of Christ does not understand love, nobody will. Ultimately, how those verses boil down. If we don't live out his love, nobody will know what love is about. And knowing that this is Christ's kind of love that we are to live out, our adversary, the devil, is going to be working double time to do all he can to distort it, to redefine it, to weaken it, to completely, what would you call it, destroy it in all this shape, form, and fashion, but yet create a new type and present it to us as if this is it, this is what it is. And so I have a few scenarios here this morning. Again, I'm not trying to do situational ethics, but kind of presenting out what could happen in real life, not so that we can critique these fictional characters, but that's so as we see that lived out in our lives. What's the biblical passage? What's the biblical truth? What is the reality of his love that we all need to be living out in our lives? I found a website, which I find out that my daughters are already aware of these websites, but those websites that will give you random names. So there's some creativity in these names. Obviously, these are all fictional scenarios, and then randomly generated names, which I thought was kind of fun. But here's what we'll do. I've got 5 of them, and again, if you don't talk back, there's going to be very little discussion here. But I'm hoping we can kind of analyze it and say, here's what Christ-like love is. Here's how it will be worked out in this situation. And I tried to make these so that they be some things that really apply to all of us, but as well that we'd all live out as well. That we face. So, number 1, we have Lee and Kara. Lee and Kara have been dating. So this is a dating scenario. Have been dating for several years. Lee works hard at his job. Not only have they been dating, they've been married for several years. Lee works hard at his job and finds himself away from home a lot. Both Lee and Kara are faithful to each other, and they're not married. Let me back up. They're not married. I should have stuck to my notes. They are just dating. But Lee is always gone. Kara is always remaining home. And they're feeling a struggle in their relationship because of Lee's works and his commitment. The question could be, what should Lee and Kara do? Or even more specifically, what should Lee do? If he's a guy that's always away on business, he's always away traveling, he's always gone, and his girlfriend, perhaps fiance, however that works out, is back home, and they're really feeling the strain on their relationship, what needs to be done? So they go to some Christian friends and they get some advice. Hey, here's our situation. We really feel like the Lord has led us together. We really want to get married at some point. And we want to settle down and get married and have children and so on and so forth. But this just isn't working out. What would be, and I'll tell you what would probably be the most common response from anybody, from any friend, would say something along these lines. Lee, here's what you need to do. Is your job worth sacrificing this girlfriend, this fiance, this future wife? Or would you be willing to just find another job, find another closer job, something that where you're not traveling as much, something that you're not gone as much, so that it's for the betterment of that relationship? And that would seem like a typical, if you got a relationship, and even if it's a marriage relationship, and one party is always gone on business, always on travel, and it begins to strain the marriage, this dating situation, it's straining their relationship, the common response will be, you want to make that relationship better, here's what you need to do. Step 1, get a different job. Just do something else. Maybe get a different job in your same employment, but one that doesn't require so much travel. Is that correct? I'm not asking if that is bad advice. I'm asking, is that correct advice? In other words, it's not bad for Lee to begin to consider other options and be able to be home more often, especially once he gets married. But what would be the biblical means of a biblical solution here? Christ type of love.
I don't know if that's bad, like you said, but I think one thing is that they're looking at each other and how to meet a need as opposed to just looking to the Lord to meet a need.
Exactly. Here's exactly 1 John 4. We know a lot of 1 John 4, I would imagine, but look at 1 John chapter 4. You may even know the song. You can sing verses 7 and 8. I will not sing that song for you at this point. The 1 John 4, 7 and 8 has a little catchy tune about it, but it says this: Beloved, let us love one another, for love is of what? We know this, right? We know that love is of God, correct? But in the situation of Lee and Carol, what is our first inclination of advice? Well, you want to have a stronger relationship, you want to have better love, here's what you need to do. You need to figure out how to spend more time together, which, again, that's not bad. That's not a bad thing. I'm not trying to say that's a bad option. But how is it that we get better kind of love? You got to know where the source is of love. The source isn't, I live closer, I work closer, we spend more time together, so on and so forth. As Joe said, the connection is just this way instead of this way. But let me continue on. Beloved, let us love one another, for love is of God, and everyone that loveth is born of God and knoweth God. He that loveth not, it's not because you're working too far away from home. It's not because your job has too many commitments. It's not because of this or that or the other thing. He that doesn't love, is because, the simple reality is because of a lack of a knowledge of God. Because, again, God is love. The more that we know of our God, the more that we will be able to emulate His love in us. Same example as I started off with the basketball. The more that we as high school guys watched Michael Jordan play basketball, the more that we wanted to imitate Michael Jordan playing basketball. The more that we know our God, the more that we will be able to emulate His love for us through others. And so again, I'm not saying that the whole advice of quit your job and find a different one and don't travel so much is necessarily bad advice. What our first advice should be, that's not going to create better love. That's not going to create a better relationship. It may remove some of the obvious speed bumps along the way, but love isn't based on, or love should not be based on just the fact that I no longer have to travel. It'll just wind up being something else that is the obstacle in that relationship. The answer begins with, we've got to know our God better. We have to put more focus on our God first, and that's going to help us love as God has intended us for us to love. Whether it be in the dating scenario, in the marriage scenario, in whatever scenario, it's a focus on our God first is the first answer, the first solution, the first objective. And there may be something that we can change in our lives, but if we don't start here, everything else is just going to be, we're trying to swim upstream, and we're never called to do that in this case. Get it right so we know what it is that we're to emulate, and watch God do a work in us. Second scenario, this will probably apply at least to my daughters here in a year and a half, where they keep reminding us. They've already started a list of what do you call that? For college. You girls are still like in third grade, I think. Huh? But here's an illustration from college. Again, my randomly generated scenario of names. Nia and Lily are roommates in college. They have been friends for many years and were able to request each other as roommates. Their friendship has endured many trials over the year, boyfriends being one of many. Lily's mom passed away a couple of years ago, and Nia was right there with her. Nia had a serious auto accident, recovery, and Lily was right there with her as well. So these are nearly lifelong friends as far as college would go, and now they are roommates. The problem is that Nia is, well, for lack of a better word, she's a slob. She's messy. She's a very messy person. It's always been a joke between the two of them, but now living in the same small dorm room has exponentially increased the problem. Lily used to clean up, or help clean up Nia's mess, but it was pulling Lily from her schoolwork. And Lily began asking nicely, and Nia would often try to make things better, but now that the school year has gone underway, the room is just a constant mess. In fact, it seems to be getting messier and messier. It is absolutely driving Lily absolutely crazy. She doesn't want this to be a problem in the relationship and just a friendship, but she is really struggling to keep a good attitude. Realizing that something needed to change in her attitude, Lily went to some trusted friends to ask them for advice on how to keep their friendship growing better. The most common advice, again, this is just a narrative I'm writing, so nobody was actually asked this question, but according to my scenario, most common advice was, Lily just needs to learn how to forgive. And even a reference was given of 1 Peter 4:8, that love covers what? A multitude of sins. And certainly just having a messy roommate is something that you just need to learn how to overlook. Well, initially, Lily forgave Nia in her heart, and it seemed to help for a day or two. But another extraordinary, messy day brought all of those attempts to a quick end. Lily then confronted Nia and told her that she wanted to publicly ask for forgiveness for the bad thoughts, thinking, well, I didn't actually confront her, didn't actually tell her that I forgave her, and all of those thoughts in that regard. And again, things definitely improved at first, but then definitely seemed to get worse, much worse. What would be the solution in this regard? What would be the biblical, again, this is just a scenario. This is just two people that have been friends forever. Now they are roommates. Now they are in the same dorm room in college. And one of them is an absolute slob. And the other one seems to be an absolute neat freak. And they are not getting along. They don't want messiness to be a divide. What is their biblical solution there? Just say it that way. Any thoughts?
Lots of thoughts. I don't know where to put them.
Find a new roommate.
Same.
Yeah, exactly.
I kind of had a situation like that, and she wanted to be my roommate, and I was like, no, I want us to be friends.
Yes.
But I don't know how really close. There's some things you have to compartmentalize. And
Yes, exactly. Say our relationship works best from a distance.
Actually, when I met her, I knew I couldn't live with her.
Yes.
But
And sometimes I think that when we have that option, I think that's not necessarily like the last one, quitting the job and reassessing. I don't think those are necessarily bad options, and like that, I think there's times that it's just wise to say, I just don't know that this is going to work well for us. I don't think this is going to measure out as well as we hope it would be.
because I would think if I was the one who liked to be clean, not a neat freak, but liked to be clean, and have things orderly around me, I would feel disrespected. That would be a constant thing that I could not.
Very true.
It would be a constant aggravation.
Yes. Yes, I would agree. Having grown up in the same room as my brother Bob, that's exactly how I felt.
Always, the first thing that comes to my mind whenever I read verse 8, above all,
Yes.
loving one another earnestly, I don't, it doesn't come across as like an emotional kind of love type of thing. Maybe that's kind of what Lily's experience was, where she decided to just put it behind her and love her on all things. But if you're looking at that word as a verb, then maybe you're able to have a little bit, what's the word I'm thinking of? Stick-to-itiveness, maybe.
Yeah, yes.
You're actively choosing to love her despite of her not being the same as you.
Exactly. Any other thoughts? Let's go back to that verse here, 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 8. And above all things, have fervent charity among yourselves, for charity shall cover the multitude of sins. It's focusing on that last phrase, which I think many times gets thrown around. Love covers the multitude of sins. Well, what does that mean? Obviously, we're not the judge. Obviously, we are not God. Obviously, we don't have the right to cast judgment on somebody else because of their sin, because we are just as much a sinner. Again, it goes back to the beam in the dust in our eyes. But at the same point, when we say, and we heard said over and over again, love covers a multitude of sins. So if you're going to allow your messy roommate to cause a disturbance in your relationship, the problem is that, you just got to learn how to allow love to cover that all up. Well, the truth is sometimes when it comes, if you're a neat freak and you got somebody that's just a slob, it becomes personal. It becomes, well, what about my space? What about my time? What about, this is my place that I live in. I have to make my way from my bed to the door, and I can't do it without climbing over things. What about that? And how do I look over those things and apply love in that regard? Well, again, Joe was exactly right. Kind of found at the beginning of verse 8 that I think many times we overlook when it says, above all things, his next three words, at least in the King James, have fervent charity. To be able to have fervent charity, I think, is obviously the key. Have fervent charity, which means I am truly focused on it, working on it, committed to it, and it becomes my objective, my goal. It becomes what drives me. We want to have the love of Christ evidenced in our lives. We got to have a love that is a fervent kind of love, not one that's going to. It's not just about one that's overlooked at. It's going to be one that is committed to, and because of my love, this is what I'm going to do. Case in point. Actually, a really interesting case in point here. Just yesterday, we stopped at Dunkin' Donuts. My wife loves coffee, and we were in Peoria, so I stopped at Dunkin' Donuts on the way home. She got coffee, and it was at the newer one there by Gray Mall. We pull up, and there's all glass windows there, and there's a couple in there with a small child, and they were changing the diaper on the table. But again, I'm more of a neat freak, and I went, what are you doing that for? And I know as of January 1st, every restaurant in a public building has to have a baby changing table in it. So immediately I know they're required by law to have changing tables in the bathroom. What are you doing that? I've been stopping in my bed. I'm not telling them. I'm not going to tell them in person. But in my mind, I'm thinking, people are going to be eating their donuts on that table, and you just changed some poopy diaper right there. That's disgusting. Don't do that. Well, on the other side of the coin, away from that scenario, and literally this becomes not just Mia and Lily, but Art and whoever that stranger is changing a poopy diaper at the table. But think of a mom. Well, hopefully a mom doesn't change the diaper on a restaurant table. I think there's something just off about that. But think of a mom changing a diaper. I would have to say, especially as a father, that a dirty diaper is gross. It's disgusting. And I don't imagine that there's too many moms that are walking into their dear baby's room after a nap and walk in and say, "You did not do that again!" Having a fit. What do moms typically do? They go in there and they pick up their sweet little stinking baby and then bring it over to the changing table, not the dining room table, but the changing table. And they will change that diaper, and the rest of us are going, "Oh wow, that was yeah." And mom's just changing the diaper and sweetening up the baby and oh. It says that love covers a multitude of sins. We can say a multitude of stinky, dirty diapers. It's because of a mom's fervent love for her child. Typically, a dirty diaper is not going to be enough for a mom to say, "I don't love you anymore. That was one too many dirty diapers. I'm done with you." No, a mom is committed to fervent love that, if it happens again, I'll change it. I'll be here. And if I'm tired or whatever, I'll try to get someone else in the family to do it, but I'm going to take care of you. And we're going to get this done. And I think a lot of times we have to be reminded of fervent charity. It's about fervent charity. We've got to be committed. We've got to understand that it's not just about forcing myself to overlook something. It's about reminding me of Christ's type of love that is fervent in its love. Fervent charity. Because when we have that kind of fervent love, it allows us to be able to handle stinky diapers, we can say it that way. And Ania and Lily, while there may be options that they should say next semester, let's not allow ourselves to be in a position where something like a mass is going to cause us. Maybe we need to let's be roommates next door from each other. Maybe there's some choices in that regard, but ultimately we need to begin with, we got to learn how to be fervent in our charity, fervent in our love. That is Christ's kind of love. Fervent, one that is committed to, drive and driven forward, and it continues to move forward regardless. Third scenario, we have Lauren. Lauren is a mother of 6 children, all under the age of 10. To say that Lauren is always tired is a definite understatement. She's a stay-at-home mom, and many times she would like to stay anywhere but home. In her exhaustion, she has found herself losing her patience more and more and getting upset about things that never used to bother her. She loves her children, but she senses that she is failing as a mother. Lauren seeks out some advice from some Christian friends. They listen to her story, and they know Lauren well enough to know that she had just wore herself out. After listening and asking a couple of questions, they have some advice. The solution, I think I have it up there. The world solution, even among good intentional Christian friends, is, as I have up there, what you need is some what? Me time. You just need, you're a mom, you're busy, you're committed to these kids, you've got a half a dozen of them and they're all young. What you need to do is you just gotta have some me time. Now, if you've been here long enough, you know that I speak not positively in regards to me time, for obvious reasons here in a moment, but obviously, so they say, lock yourself in the bathroom if you need to. Lock yourself in your room. Just get away. Go out on the back porch. Leave your kids in the house. Get away. Leave the kids with the husband if you have to. Just get away for a weekend. Do something. But what you need is some me time. Correct biblical answer in regards to a Christ-like kind of love. Again, like all of our scenarios, we could easily say, well, that's not necessarily bad. If you're just getting overwhelmed and just stressed out and you can't get sleep and you're just running on ragged edge, is there anything wrong with just saying, I need a nap? I need to just be able to zone out and not have all the questions and the demands and all of that. I just need some time to adjust and get organized so north is still north and south is still south. There's not necessarily anything wrong directly with that. But what should be our first biblical go-to if we're going to live out Christ's kind of love? I know I've already got the biblical the passage there, so some of you may already be there, but what's the correct answer? Where should we begin in that scenario?
This isn't what you want, but I think it's the first one again. You got to know God first.
Correct.
And so
That is true.
perspective is the word, I think. Because as soon as they hear that, someone tells you need me time, then you start just seeing things that are exhausting you. But if you focus up,
Correct.
so I know that's not this.
Well, they all kind of like roll off of each other. Obviously, the beginning part is that if we're not, first scenario for John 4:7-8, if our love is rooted in our children, it's going to come to an end at some point. We're going to reach as ragged as we can, and there's the end of our love to some extent, even to the point of lock myself in the bathroom for 3 hours because I can't handle you anymore. That's not the kind of love that we're supposed to be having here. Now, I'm not just talking about a mom for kids, but any of us. That's not what love is. What we need to be having is realize that my solution, my energy source is not me. My energy source is God, number one. Secondly, I need to realize that I need to have a commitment. I need to have fervent kind of love. That means love is going to take some work. That means love is going to take some energy. That means love is going to require us to do some things that naturally I'm not going to want to do. That's what love is. That's what Christ-like kind of love is. It's got to be fervent kind of love. I'm trying to do it the easy way, the quick way, the no commitment way. That's the world's kind of love, not God's kind of love. But here we come to what I have, and I think there's lots of answers we could actually go to. But 1 Corinthians chapter 16, verse 14. Let me get there here. 1 Corinthians 16, 14, a simple verse says, let all things be done with charity. Let all things be done with charity. Be done with love. Now, I love that it says, all your things. Let all your things. Our motivation and drive for life must be rooted in love. It doesn't mean that an exhausted mom can't take a nap. It doesn't mean that an exhausted mom has to go from 5 o'clock in the morning until midnight every night and just run 100 miles an hour with, 6 different kids going different directions and just go, 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 go. Our physical bodies require some rest. Our physical bodies require some downtime. But our love that Christ has given to us has no room for me time. It has no room for locking ourselves in the bathroom to get away. Obviously, especially as a mom, you probably have to lock yourself in a bathroom just to do your business. But I'm talking about something else here. Just to be able to get away, what does it say there? Let all your things be done in love.
Along that, I was thinking it's the whole problem with me time, whether it's a mom or whether it's someone feeling the strains of work or any of it, because first of all, because it's focused on, oh, my needs aren't getting met, but I
Yes.
forget the number, but how many times is it one another? So if you're
Yes.
really having that struggle, you just need to get the whole family involved. Strength. So there's a solution. This is where he puts you. This is
Yes.
your mission field. So whether it's at home or at work or wherever, it'd be so easy to be like, no one cares about me, but they don't have to. My job is to care about one another,
Exactly.
right? And
Exactly.
then it's perspective.
Yes.
That's good because you're sitting there looking for me time. The reason you need me time is because you're already so focused on me time.
Yeah, that's what
Exactly.
I meant. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Well, and ultimately, we can say that way. Those that want me time is because their whole life is about me time.
Mm-hmm.
And their me time is not measuring out to their kind of me time, so they're trying to figure out the next level. And
That's kind of
the
what I was
next
thinking.
level never
That's
comes.
always where you go.
Yeah, you
Yes.
never get enough of
Yes.
it.
It'll start off by locking yourself in the bathroom for a couple extra hours, and then before long, I got to get away for a weekend. And before long, I got to get away for a week, and I'm just now away. I can't do this anymore. I'm done. And it just keeps. When our focus is me, there is no end to it. When our focus is rooted on let all your things. All your things. What does that leave out? There's nothing left out. Let everything you're going to do and ever do be done in love. Period. That's how it works. That's how it works. And again, 3 scenarios so far, 3 solutions so far that aren't necessarily wrong solutions. Again, for Lee to get a different job, it's not like, no, you should never do that. But that's not the means of his love. That's not the power source of his love. For, Lily, to get a new roommate next year, it's not necessarily that she can't do that. But that is not the essence of the endurance of her love. For Lauren to lock herself in her room, or in a bathroom, or whatever it might be, not necessarily a bad thing at times to have rest, to get away, but it's just proving the objective of our love. It's me. Number 4. This one was great. As far as my random names, I came up with Albert. Albert and Macy have been married for 10 years. To say that their honeymoon is over is to say the least. They still have their moments, but there are many more moments when they simply coexist at the same address. They both realize that things are not well between them, and they have even attempted marriage counseling on several occasions. When asked, they both agree that they just don't feel the same way for each other as they did. Acknowledge that there was a time that they truly loved each other, but the feeling just isn't the same anymore. They have both stated that, well, and I quote, "We've just fallen out of love." Over the years, they have received much advice. That included all sorts of solutions. Vacations together, spending money on each other, writing notes to each other on a daily basis, or at least until they both got tired of it. It seems like they have tried every solution and they are no better off. In fact, it seems they are worse. Finally, a friend gave them the advice that they both had been waiting for. Perhaps it was just time for the two of them to split ways. They shared 10 great years together, but love doesn't last in all cases. It was not for lack of trying. They gave their best shot, it didn't work. When they both need is a new start. Perhaps God still has the right one out there somewhere. And they wish each other luck, and off they go on their separate directions. Obviously, I would hope that we'd understand the whole ramification of that kind of advice. But what ultimately should be the correct kind of advice here in this situation? There's a couple, they tried everything. They want to love each other, they just can't get it done. And they tried this, they tried that, they've gone here, they've asked for this advice, they've gone to care counseling, they've done it, and they've tried it, and none of it has worked. And now the counsel is, well, if you guys aren't just getting along, if there's just no love anymore, then maybe you can go find love somewhere else. Where do we begin in our biblical answer to love? Obviously, it begins not with me and somebody else. It begins with me and my God. It needs to be a fervent kind of love that allows us to overlook sin. It needs to be one that is not focused on me, but letting all of our things be done in love. But what about old Albert and Basie? I love how those names are working out. Any ideas? Obviously I have Ephesians chapter 5 as a common passage to go to. But where would we live out Christ's kind of love here? You tried it. It hasn't worked.
Don't try it, just do it.
That is kind of like the last point. Yes, it's sometimes I think our efforts are let all things be done in charity, and we're trying. What we are trying is not trying how to love, but trying how to do this solution. And let all things be done in a vacation. Let all things be done in notes. Let all things be done in spending money on each other. Let all things be done. And so we're trying the solutions, but we're not actually doing what Christ-like love is. Ephesians chapter 5, again, familiar verses, and especially in regards to marriage. But look at verse 25. It says, husbands, love your wives, even as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for it. Jumping down to verse 28. So ought men to love their wives as their own bodies. He that loveth his wife loveth himself. Verse 28 seems a little odd. It kind of almost seems contrary at first reading to my disposition on me time from the last point. But ultimately, what we're looking at here is I copied me time, didn't I? Don't look at that. I didn't. I think
That's appropriate, though.
well, it is very appropriate. That's true. That is very true. Ultimately, the world solution was leave. Was the solution, not me time, but it is the same thing. What verse 28 in Ephesians chapter 5 is ultimately saying is what is natural? What is natural kind of love as evidenced by a Christian marriage? It is natural as natural as it is for Christ to love the church. It is natural for a man to continue to love his wife. That's the nature of it all. We just have to learn again. Every point kind of boils from the other. I need to know my source. I need to know the endurance aspect of it, be fervent in it. I need to understand that it's not about me, but it's about letting all my things be done through love. And as far as the Albert and Basie marriage thing of it all goes, what a privilege that we have to be able to live out his love, even in our homes and our marriages, that this is an opportunity that we have to live this out. It's not about me trying this and this and this and this and this. It's about me just doing it. It's about me being Christ's love in the home, in the marriage. And I know that's difficult to do, but ultimately what verse 28 is saying, it's a natural thing to do. If you're a child, it's a natural thing. Any other option then would be unnatural. In other words, he's saying it would be unnatural for a man not to be concerned about his own well-being. That would not be natural for him to say, whatever, I cut my arm off yesterday at the shop, but who cares? It's going to be natural for a man to say, I'm going to protect myself. I got the fight or flight syndrome here, and this is how things work. Well, as that is natural, so it ought also to be in the realm of the home, of the Christian home. That love continues on because that is nature. That's how God designed a marriage and home. Now we come to the last one, scenario number 5, and this one will hit the younger ones. I love that the first random name was Harold. First random girl name was Madison, and then I had Harold, and that just didn't seem to fit. Madison and Harold sound like 3 different generations were involved there. So then I looked for another name, and I kid you not, the very next name was Ross. And I guess that's maybe a little more recent than Harold, but it still seemed to be a generation or so off. And then we found Travis, so we're going with Travis. So Madison and Travis. And now I say those 2 names, probably those are names that can be used by any gender, sadly, today. But we have a female Madison and a male Travis. Travis was an athlete and has just transferred to Madison School. He was even in her class. The moment that she first saw him, she felt it. Her heart fluttered. Oh, Travis. The sun seemed to shine brighter. Class, even math class, seemed so much better with Travis in it. They both seemed to sense the same thing. Before long, the school was aware that Madison and Travis were a pair. Travis liked that Madison showed such a need for him in her life, possibly live without him. Whereas Madison quickly realized that she could get Travis to pretty much do anything for her. She would just show that little pouty face. He was no longer going to talk to all of those girls in her class. If she just gave a little, suddenly she got whatever she wanted. Whatever she wanted Travis to do, Madison was able to get him to do it by just a little show of the face of disapproval. Travis, again, needed to feel like he was needed, and Madison liked to manipulate Travis with her quote-unquote love. She rewarded him with attention when he did what she wanted, and she rewarded him, if you can say it that way, with lack of attention when he did what she didn't want. The relationship seemed to be a bit rocky, but somehow it worked. Or did it? Neither of them sought out any advice because they were both certain that what they had was love, the flutter in the heart, the need for attention, the affection and award of love and attention, so on and so forth. They were just convinced this was it. But what is wrong? We'll say it that way. What is wrong with that kind of relationship?
Run, Travis, run.
Run, Travis, run! Run while you still can! That's perfect advice. Obviously, besides the obvious, they're still in high school. Don't get so involved with each other in high school. There's lots of learning in life.
Yeah. So you know that true love doesn't exist until you're 35.
Exactly.
Until your daughters.
That's right. Yeah. What would be a good, besides telling Travis to hit the road, which in this case, again, like the others, isn't necessarily bad advice. But how are they going to figure this out? Because sadly, so many times is what happens. That little flutter in the heart is enough to get them to snowball enough to the point where they're saying I do's. But shortly thereafter, they realize, wait a minute, what do we have? How long can Travis put up with all the manipulating? And how long will Madison continue to be content with feeling like this guy's actually doing this because I want him to? How long will this work in this scenario? The answer obviously varies, but more than likely, it's not going to work very long if that is the foundation of their love. I think a great, obviously any passage is a great passage, but the one that we haven't hit yet that is obviously common for true agape, Christ-like kind of love is 1 Corinthians chapter 13. But for all, especially the younger ones involved, what a great reminder in this illustration between the difference between love and lust. You say it this way, when the heart beats twice as fast and the sun shines twice as bright, more than likely that's lust. That begins with lust. Or we'll say it this way, if it begins at this level immediately, it's probably focused on something that is not genuine love. And when it's not genuine love, what we're going to have is it's going to start going this way. When it's focused on genuine love, obviously we are to be all things done here, but it's just going to continue to roll. It's going to continue to increase in that relationship. And so when it's going backward more than likely, it's not a true love, it's a lust. And let me even go one step farther. When there's manipulation involved, that's not love at all. There is no love there. Love is not manipulation. Love is not, you do this or I'm not going to love you anymore. That is not love at all. Yet it is very common in a high school setting, unfortunately. Especially along with girls. But I suppose guys are even just as at fault many times. The manipulation that takes place on both sides, that you do what I want, or me not being pleased with you, and the love is going this way, back down to zero as far as the growing in love and fervency and so on and so forth. But 1 Corinthians 13, we know these verses, but let's close with them. Verse 4 says, charity suffer. True love suffers long and is kind. Charity envieth not. Charity vaunteth not itself. Is not puffed up, which means there's no room for me time. Doth not behave itself unseemly. Seeketh not her own. Again, there's no me time. Is not easily provoked. Thinketh evil. Rejoices not in iniquity, but rejoices in truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Charity never fails, or charity never stops. True love never stops. Whether it be prophecy, they shall fail. Whether it be tongues, they shall cease. Whether it shall be knowledge, it shall vanish away, or the importance of it will disappear. But charity never ends. And so as we look at our Madison and Harold, or Travis, or whatever names you want to give them, and ultimately, for all 5 of these scenarios, I specifically take different examples as far as marriage or dating or roommates or high school or whatever it is. But ultimately, we can probably see our life in every single one of those today. Things that we have to deal with that are opportunities for us to either show Christ kind of love or my kind of non-love. And the end result will be the same if we don't have it in His love. And so let us kind of have the reminder that our source of His kind of love, that becomes our defining characteristic, begins with God. It gives us the knowledge of God. It's not about a knowledge of one another. That's not the answer. That's not the source. It's the knowledge of God that allows us to love as He does. Like Nia and Lily, we need to have a fervent kind of love. Love must be fervent. If it's not fervent, we will give up on it. It's got to be a fervent kind of love. Like Lauren and the children, it's not about me time, but let all my things be done in love. Everything that I do ought to be done in love. Whether it be changing another poopy diaper that I've done so many times before, or enjoying an afternoon together with the kid or the husband or the wife or whatever. Let everything that we do be done in love. Whether it be Albert and Macy, again, I said the me time, but we could say the leave time. It's just give up. It's done. We need to be reminded that if we're a child of God and we have Christ within us, it is the natural thing. Not fleshly natural, but Christly natural thing for a marriage to work this way. For a husband to love his wife as he loves himself. For Madison and Travis, again, it's easy to redefine love for the heart flutters of the lust in the moment. But that's not true love. And it's easy to think that if I kind of love something I can manipulate, but if I am about manipulation, that is not love either. That's about me getting my way, which goes right back to me time. That's all about me. If the love of Christ is to be the identifying mark of Him in our lives, if our love for each other is to be something that the world can say, hey, I know that they're a child of God because of how they loved in that case, then we've got to put all those 5 points together into our lives and live them out day after day. And continually remind ourselves, or continually ask ourselves, whether our name is Lee or Tara or Nia or Lily or Lauren and Albert or Macy or Madison or Travis, whatever our name is, am I living out Christ's love today? We all face our different scenarios, but all of us have the same opportunity to either love as the flesh loves or love as Christ loves. What an opportunity that Christ reminds us. You live this way, people will know you are following, who it is that you follow, if you love this way. If you love this way, you won't stand out. You love this way, people will note Christ is in that life. And may we be reminded of that kind of life, that kind of love in our motives and our living as well. Let's pray. Lord, we thank you again for the love that you give to us, the unconditional love. Certainly we don't deserve any of it. We thank you that your love is literally in its perfection. But I pray that you remind us as well that you've asked us to love the same way. And certainly each one of us, if you carry this week, are going to have opportunities where that love is going to come to the test. It's going to be a test whether or not we're going to love your way or love our way. Love the fleshly way or love your way. And I just pray that you remind us of the opportunity that we have to show you this week. The opportunity that we do have to make a difference in a life, in a heart, even in an entire community. By the way that we simply love as you do. And as you continue to do for us. And I pray that you use us and strengthen us and remind us even here on this Valentine's weekend of the privilege that we do have to know your love in our hearts. And we thank you for it. In Jesus' name, amen. We want to close with number 81, Wait Thou Only Upon God. This is a very short chorus. Wait Thou Only Upon God. Mike, right number? 8. Yes.